But obviously, the more thorough you are with the correct information, obviously, the more.
Yeah, I mean, the more thorough. I mean, certain things aren't really necessary in genealogy, but any little thing can help you find a story. Like that one little story that you heard that your grandma said that someone in the family was a musician or someone was part of this play, or little stories like that. A lot of people have those, and those are the little things that you'll end up finding amazing stories because often those come from a real place.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of people will hear, I was related to this person or I'm somehow related to this family, and then you actually look in the genealogy and then you find it and you see the truth of it, and usually those things are really interesting because if even just a little tidbit got passed down.
Do you ever find that like people lie about that kind of stuff? Like ever they're like, oh yeah, your dad was this and this and this and this. Come to find out your like grandfather was just lying to you the entire time. Like he was never any of that.
Oh, in genetic genealogy, there's tons of people finding what they weren't expecting.
Oh yeah,
family just lying.
Like where the family was lying about like some of the stuff. Or
a great example actually is LL Cool J.
Mm-hmm.
LL Cool J's mom had only maybe a hint growing up that she wasn't, or that she was adopted. She had some aunt of hers had said some sort of little thing at some point that made her think, oh, well, maybe my mom's not my mom. But for her whole life, her parents were like, no, you're not adopted, you're ours. They ended up doing the genetic genealogy on that show, Finding Your Roots.
Mm-hmm.
They not only figured out that she was adopted, they figured out who her actual parents were, both her biological parents. And it was really uncanny, like some of the similarities that ran through the family, even though there was no actual known connection. Like LL Cool J's maternal grandfather, so his mom's biological father, was a boxer. And LL Cool J and his mom, for their entire lives, were huge boxing fans. No one else in their family was into boxing. No one really cared about it, but they were super into it. And then it turns out that not only was his grandfather a boxer, his grandfather's brothers were boxers, and they were different, champions of different weight levels and stuff, world champions.
That's cool.
That's crazy.
So it's like that. That's a great example. And you can actually, if you look up Finding Your Roots, which is, right there. So, he finds out that, and it wasn't just, his biological grandma. He found out who his biological grandmother and grandfather were.
That's pretty cool.
So, but there's been cases like, I in my work, I don't do a lot of genetic genealogy because I'm really knowledgeable about it, but I'm not knowledgeable enough to charge people for me to assist them in helping because I'll need assistance anyway. But I have enough of a good basis that I'll be on the Reddit forums and try to help people and Facebook forums and stuff like that. And we get people posting on there all the time. I did my DNA test and I matched my mom, but I didn't match my dad, or I matched my brother, but it doesn't look like what we would expect for the same brothers because they ended up not having the same dad. They had the same mom, but not the same dad, and they didn't even know.
Scandalous.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff like that. And it's actually in genetic genealogy, it's something we call a non-paternity event. Because there's different types of genealogy genetic genealogy tests that you can do that will test specific lines. So there's one that's called the Y chromosome. You guys know a male gets an X and a Y, a female gets an X and an X. So X comes from the mom for the female, and an X comes from the dad for the female. But for a male, X comes from your mom, but Y comes from your dad. Well, the Y chromosome passes down from generation to generation without changing much at all. So when you test your Y DNA, like you're a Phelps, there's a Phelps genetic genealogy project that looks for people from the area of North Carolina that your Phelps family is from, and they want them to do Y DNA testing. And then from that, they can link you into other Phelps families if your Y DNA matches, because you'll know if your Y DNA matches, then at some point in the past, if you follow up your paternal Phelps line and you follow up that other person's paternal Phelps line, you'll find a similar Phelps ancestor.
Huh.
And with the amount of genealogy that's been done on the Phelps family, you may actually be able to trace your family back further by connecting with other branches. You may not be able to figure it out through the paper trail how exactly your line would connect to this line that maybe traces further than what you have, but it'll at least you'll know for a fact that, you know, there's some sort of gap here, but you know that that other guy is your ancestor. So like your tree I have traced back to the 18th century, so 1700s.